is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Final hour OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, up on TSN 2. Bryan Hayes, Andi Petrillo, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star in here. Setting the tone for a big night. Right? Mm-hmm. This is your go-to song, Andy. We've got a big one tonight at the Garden where wouldn't say the Raptors did a great job of representing the city last night. It was a good game. It was a fun game, but they were chasing it all night. Offensive explosion. They shot poorly in the first half, like they always do in terms of their statistics. But they actually, I think they were down, 66-60 at the half or something like that. And then they actually really started to, push it offensively in the second half. But it doesn't mean much if you're going to give up 136 points.
Yeah. Which
is what happened. So they lose to the Knicks last night. They're back in action against Atlanta tomorrow. Leo Rautins will join us here in a few moments. But, the Raptors are out and the Leafs roll in. They've got a game tonight at the Garden playing the Rangers. The Rangers have been one of the best teams in the league so far.
Yep.
This will be a fun game. And what the Leafs have proven here is like they pick up points every single night, and they don't get blown out.
No.
Like they're an underdog tonight, which they should be, I think, even if they didn't play last night. But certainly considering they did, and I know it's not big travel, but still, you played. And now you're going against the Rangers. Rangers are waiting for you at the Garden. But I think the Leafs make a game of it tonight. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they won the game tonight. And if they lose, I think it'll be close.
Well, that's the optimistic story.
There's
that
the
I've been
optimistic.
Trying to get to you.
Exactly.
I'm going to bring a negative one, but go ahead.
No,
please,
well,
go ahead.
I want to just be the beacon of optimism
Okay,
at
go
this
ahead.
table because I'm just disgusted by your rampant pessimism.
Right.
And my point would be, and Shanahan made this point at the Board of Governors meeting to Gino in that rare interview when Shanny crawled out of
Quick
his
stop and
cave.
chat.
And,
Yeah.
he's basically a hermit. We never
Pokeroo.
see him anymore. But there he was. And his point was, and I think, look, you could roll your eyes at it if you like, but I think there's something to it. It's like, yeah, they don't have a lot of regulation wins, but they got the second fewest regulation losses. Like they to your point, Hayes, like they don't get blown out. They don't find themselves out of games. Almost ever.
Right. They're always in games.
They're almost always in the game.
They don't get blown out because they too score a lot of goals, but 6-5 wins or 5-4. Like you're also still allowing the other team to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, it
guys.
happens. They're pros too, Andy.
Yeah, they're pros.
But that's okay. I don't know. I don't know how you guys are feeling about Martin Jones in net tonight.
I'm actually quite curious to see what he's got because I think there's a big opportunity for him to play more games than anyone would have anticipated.
Yeah.
Because Samsonov, I didn't like his game last night. I didn't like a couple of those goals. He's been struggling all season. I know he played well on Saturday night against Nashville, but was not tested much. They're going to need him, but they're not committed to him long term. And I think you're dealing with a scenario here where Joseph Woll is going to be out, possibly up to a couple of months. But he had taken the net from Samsonov, so it's almost as if, from that standpoint, it's like two backups are fighting now for who's going to be supreme and who's going to get the most starts. And I think if Jones plays well tonight, I'd go with him the next game. Like, I'd feel no obligation whatsoever to play Samsonov.
No, you ride the hot hand.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And Martin Jones he's not a nobody. He started over 400 games in the league. He's a legit veteran who's been in the NHL for a long time. Now, I'm not holding my breath that he's going to be great. I'm not labeling him a savior because I don't believe he is one. But if Samsonov isn't going to pull his weight and Jones is better or you have more confidence in Jones, play him. Like, for me, it's a big opportunity for a veteran in Martin Jones. And this is why you accepted the deal. A, because they paid him a lot more than other teams would to be a third-string guy. B, they kind of booby-trapped the deal, so it was like, move here, you're going to stay here, you're not going to be claimed off waivers. Sure, that would have been frustrating for a vet, the idea that you move up here and then you get claimed by some other team and you got to go there. But I also think it was probably a scenario where he realized, I can battle for the net here.
Yeah.
Like, the door might open at some point. And I think it's open tonight.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like that position is still wide open. I think it's going to be the busiest position. I think it's already proven that for the last few years that the goalie is the busiest person out on the ice when you play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But for sure, you ride the hot hand in this one. And I mean, he's staring down. Was it is Shesterkin getting the start?
I assume he is. I have not seen that confirmed on New York side.
I had to say that slowly to make sure
Yeah.
I pronounce that properly. That's not going to be an easy matchup.
No. Back-to-back Sorokin, Shesterkin's about as tough as it gets. And I believe he is starting tonight.
For sure. But here's the thing, Hayes and Andi. They got to be careful here because you cannot put your faith in Martin Jones. They've really got to find a way to
play like they did against Nashville.
Reinstill Samsonov's confidence.
Yes.
He's lost it. There's no doubt about it. He's talked about it publicly. I mean, maybe more than the team would like. I think they try to keep Mr. Samsonov away from microphones on a regular basis because, he's pretty open about how, when he's struggling, he's not afraid to tell the world
he's not shy at all. No, he's not.
And we had a guy like that in Jack Campbell who was a bit of a hangdog guy and would take out his frustrations on himself a lot. In a way that I don't think was productive.
No, and specifically with that position.
Yeah.
That position, it's all about being stoic. It's all about just putting it behind you.
Right.
It's like a pitcher. You give up a home run, who cares? You got to throw a strike the next ball, where you have to do that with goaltending. And I don't believe that's in the DNA of Ilya Samsonov. The question is, how much of that is even on the coaching staff to coach? If you're dealing with the disposition of a player who's a veteran who's been around for a while.
Does it make you respect Freddie Anderson a little bit more and what he had to deal with and go through and how he had to handle himself? Because think about it. Jonathan Bernier had to be sent down. There was, right. And then there was, oh my goodness, now I'm going to go into the well here. But there was another goalie that also had some issues here with the Toronto Maple Leafs who had to spend some time with the Marlies.
There've been a few.
You've been abused. Now we're talking about, Jack Campbell and Samsonov. Is Toronto also becoming... No, I think for the longest time it was Philly, right? Where they were the graveyard for goalies. Is that Toronto now?
Well, it's possible. I mean, that's why the Joseph Wall story was so positive. Because he was drafted, developed, and showed up. He is stoic. He appears to approach the game the same way every single day. And now he's injured. But that said, I don't know if you can have a goalie graveyard if you make the playoffs every year. Right? Someone's got to get hot for you to get you in.
Oh, well, that was Curtis McElhinney.
Right. And McElhinney did that, and Freddie would do that, and Samsonov did it last year, and Campbell did it the year before. There have been examples of that happening.
No, but I'm just saying.
And then we broke them.
Yes.
But you got to,
Or maybe they were programmed that way when they got here.
No, but I'm just saying, I agree with you that there's probably an opportunity here for Martin Jones.
Yeah.
And look,
don't hold me to him being a superstar.
But here's the thing, he is what he is, right? He's a career .905 guy in the save percentage department, but he's a big guy, 6'5". He takes up a lot of the net, which is why he keeps getting jobs, and he's a pro. He knows how to play. But guess what? His ceiling is a lot lower than Samsonov's ceiling if they can get Samsonov going again.
Yes, so that has to be a priority.
That's got to be the focus.
I'm with you on that. Okay, the Raptors, they were at the Garden last night. They lost again. That's 4 losses in a row. They've lost 6 of 7. To chat about it, we're joined now by our TSN NBA and Raptors analyst. Here's our buddy Leo Rautins. How you doing, Leo?
I'm good. What's up, guys?
Well, we're trying.
And gals.
Yes, it's a pretty good evening here tonight. We're trying to figure out what's going on with the Toronto sports teams at this point. And the Raptors, they're in one right now, Leo. And I found it interesting that Darko today was, asked the idea of him changing up the starting rotation, and he said he's not willing to do it. He wants to see it for at least another game or two, which I found interesting that he would even admit that publicly, that might be his game plan. But they're getting caved in. These slow starts have been an issue. If he were to change, the starting 5, where do you think he would attack it first?
Well, quite honestly, you don't have a lot of options as far as that goes. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. For Schroeder, and try Schroeder off the bench. You're really I think you're kind of limited as far as if you think any changes are going to be drastic as far as impacting this team. So if it is, it's you're talking about a move like that. You see how that goes, and it's been that lineup with Trent with those guys has been effective. So. It's just frustrating because there's a lot of things happening right now, and I think it's frustrating for Darko as well. He's walking into a situation, he's trying to implement his stuff, and there's just a lot of things happening that are taking a lot of time to sort through at this point.
Yeah, he seems really committed to Dennis Schroeder, though, right? Which I understand. I mean, he's got talent. I trust him more than Malachi Flynn at that position. I believe he'll supply more than Malachi. But where are you at with Dennis Schroeder through 23 games?
I like Dennis Schroeder. I think that as far as what Darko's trying to run, moving the basketball, getting people the ball, he's good. In some ways, his fit is better for this group than Fred. But Fred was more of a scorer. Fred was kind of had the ball in his hands in clutch times, whereas Schroeder's going to be the guy that's going to be maybe making more decisions with the basketball, quicker decisions, trying to get the ball spread around, which is what Darko wants. The only thing I've been disappointed in, as of late, I think his defense has been horrible. And he's not alone in that. He's his opponent, whoever he's guarding, whoever he switches off to, for a guy with his quickness and I've always appreciated his tenacity at the defensive end. I'm not seeing much of it. I'm seeing a lot of bad decisions and just lapses at that end of the floor. So that's the one thing that's jumping out at me more than anything else as far as Schroeder goes.
Well, let's talk about the defense in general, Leo, because last night was a good night where they actually didn't shoot it particularly badly. Of course, they're the worst shooting team from three-point range in the NBA. And last night they shot it pretty good, made 14 threes at 36%. That's about, all you can expect from this team. And yet they allow the Knicks to shoot 59% from three-point range and 60% overall. And the defense just, it came out of the gate pretty good to my eye, Leo, but it's been slipping in a big way lately. What have you seen on that end?
Well, that's the most disappointing aspect. I mean, New York shot, 80% in the fourth quarter. Ooh. And that's when you're supposed to be locking down and putting the clamps on people. And, going into the season, I don't think a lot of people are saying, oh boy, the big problem is defense. No, the problem is, not being selfish offensively, getting used to Darko's system, understanding the schemes, what he's trying to do. Nobody was saying you're going to flop on the defensive end. And we're seeing, for a lot of reasons that are perplexing, that this team is just struggling at that end of the floor. You see moments, and I think this is the tease, and I think the tease goes both ways, offense and defense, that you see them beat some really good teams, you see them play with some really good teams, and then you just see, where did it go? What happened? And so, I've been saying it, for the last couple of weeks that this is where I think you really got to look at what's going on with your core. And when I say your core, those are your best, let's just say your 3-4 top guys that have been here. Pascal, OG, Scotty, and Gary Trent. And when you look at your and three of those guys have contract situations coming up. And when you're looking at, I always say, your team, your personality of your team is generally a reflection of your best players. And, if you're inconsistent, if the effort's not where it has to be, if a lot of things like that aren't happening with your best guys, you can't expect a lot from the rest of the guys. And so I think it's and here's the other thing. We're not just looking at a quarter, in my opinion, we're not just looking at a quarter of a season. We're also looking at last season, because these are the same things that were issues with this group last season. So now it comes, I think it's decision time for management that, you're giving this group a long look, a very long look. And that's something that I actually give Masai and Bobby a lot of credit for. They never rush. They never panic. They don't listen to anybody else. They just make their own decisions. And because of that, they've been able to find players and develop players because they gave them time. Yet at this point, I think time is working against them. And I think some decisions are going to have to be made, because I really think the core is the main issue, and the depth.
Well, you kind of answered, I guess, my question there, because I was going to ask you if you felt like this team was underperforming, or if the player personnel is what it is, right? Like, where do you put your finger on with the issues with the Raptors?
Well, that's the old saying, right? You in the NBA, you are who you are after a certain point. And how much longer are you going to give it a look? And, because I really, and again, let's go back to the tease that, coming into the season, I thought this team, if all you did was play to potential, right? Nothing spectacular, just play to your potential. This team is better than last year's team, is a plus 500 team to get to the playoffs. And, when I said things before last year's season, I was disappointed. Now I'm saying it again, and I'm disappointed. So, there's something awry, right? There's something's not right. And on top of that, there is a lack of shooting. There's a lack of good perimeter shooting, which creates problems for the guys that want to put the ball on the floor, get to the rim, and get in the paint.
We're chatting with our TSN Raptors and NBA analyst Leo Rautins. Yesterday it was announced that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander won the Canadian Athlete of the Year. Obviously an incredible season he just had, first team All-NBA, what he did at the World Cup. Now he's going to be leading the charge at the Olympics next summer. And today I think he was asked, or last night after the game, he was asked, what are your goals? And, he said he wants to be one of the greatest players of all time. And, MVPs, championships, first team All-NBAs, et cetera. How realistic do you think that is? Like if you were to look into a crystal ball and, 10 years from now, 12 years from now, what do you think is possible? Like the height of how great Shai could end up being?
Well, hey, when Steve Nash kept developing, kept getting better, and did great things for Canada, became a two-time MVP in his 30s, how many people projected that, right? Whereas you look at Shai, and he's legitimate MVP candidate. This guy can play. I honestly, he's one of those guys where if he's playing, I want to watch, and I get mesmerized watching him because with the ease that he does everything on the floor. We used to say, we still do, say things about Luka Doncic that, he does what he wants. You can't speed him up. You can't change what he's going to do what he wants to do. Shai is exactly the same, except he's more athletic. He's quicker. And, you watch him play in FIBA, he has his way in FIBA. You watch him in the NBA, he has his way in the NBA. So, hey, the sky is the limit. And, I don't think he's dreaming beyond realistic goals. He can be, he very well could become the greatest Canadian never played the game. Mm-hmm. If things are done right around him, he could be an NBA champion. He certainly has the potential to be NBA MVP. And you know what? Maybe he's going to lead Canada to a medal as well. And with all the surrounding cast, there's a very good chance of that happening as well. So I'm a huge fan. I love watching this kid play. And he's got a great attitude. And all he does is work. He just works at his game, gets better and better.
Yeah, and a great case was made for him, Leo, obviously, to win the Northern Star Award in a year where Canadians have really shone between world champions at the World Athletics, world champions in the pool, at the World Aquatics, and you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doing what he did, which, by the way, he becomes just the second basketball player, Steve Nash, in 2005.
Hey, if you can get a basketball guy in any of these awards.
This is what I'm saying. Like, are there bragging rights? Like, you got some bragging rights right now, right?
Okay, hey, Andy, let me tell you this quick little snippet here, okay?
Love it.
And this isn't about me. This is about what we're talking about. When I was put in the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame, right? Mm-hmm. I was the second basketball person. Do you know who was first?
Who?
Was it Nash?
James Naismith.
James Naismith.
Freaking Naismith. Are you kidding me? Are you telling me that between James and me there was nobody else? Right? Come on.
That's why I thought they took Nash from BC and put him in Ontario.
Wow. Only a few hockey players.
Saying,
only a few hockey players, right?
When I hear, yeah, exactly, 200 of them. But when I hear an award being given to a basketball guy, now deserving, 100% deserving. Yeah. But it just makes me smile because for some reason it's not something that you see very often, and I think it's easily this sport gets easily overlooked in Canada.
Well, move aside, Leo, because Shai's going in there someday. I think Jamal Murray's going in there someday. right? There's a lot of good Ontario boys.
But you were the second ever.
That's all that
no one is taking that from you.
You and Jimmy Naismith.
Hey, wait. Jack Donahue's not in there. Jay Triano's not in there. You can just keep going down and name names.
Right.
How are they not in there?
Yep. Let's make it happen right now. Let's get that trending. Doogie?
Show love to B-ball.
Make it happen. Has to happen. Thank you, Leo. We appreciate it, buddy. Leo Rautins, our TSN Raptors analyst and Ontario Sports Hall of Famer.
Ontario Sports
Which
Hall of
he
Famer.
100% deserves. But it's funny how, like, remember when LeBron got to Cleveland, it was like, you got to trade Wiggins, get him out of here. We want Kevin Love in here. And in the end, it worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
Where Kawhi got to LA, and it's like, get rid of this kid. Go get me Paul George.
Yeah.
And now you look back on it, you're like, Kawhi. Like, I understand why you wanted George at that time, but clearly you'd be in a better position if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was still a Clipper. Like, they flipped them for Kawhi Leonard, effectively. Like, it was basically like, Kawhi's coming, you got to go. And, you know, he was a rookie. He wasn't a first overall pick. Wiggins was a bigger name at that point. But you look at what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has developed into. Now, Kawhi's relying on James Harden, Paul George, who's never healthy, Russell Westbrook. Where if Shai was still there, it would be Shai, and Kawhi would be playing off him.
Yeah.
It'd be a totally different world.
I mean, to Leo's point, like, sometimes it's hard to project, right? Like,
yeah.
It's hard. Like, no one saw Steve Nash becoming a 2-time MVP, maybe other than Steve Nash, right? And, sometimes it's the drive of the guy. And I'm with Leo. Like, the thing that has amazed me about Shai is just it doesn't stop. Like, he's not satisfied. He wants to keep getting better. He keeps working on his game. He's added so much to his game every year to the point where now he's 6 years in and he's an MVP candidate. So who's to say that in a few more years he won't just be the MVP?
Yeah, he very well could be.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprising at this point.
That's at the pro level, which obviously you talk a lot about. But, hosting the Olympics, I can say there's something really special to a lot of Canadians who maybe don't follow the NBA but love the Olympics or just, love when Canadian athletes do well. There's something special that he showed up. That, because we've had issues in the past, right?
Have we?
Yeah, with NBA Canadian players and wanting to play with the Canadian team. And some people may still think Nick Nurse was a little controversial in making them sign, right, a contract where it's like you have to commit for X amount of years or...
He's no longer
and then
there.
Nick's like a college coach. He's like, I'm taking a better gig somewhere else.
But the point is that's how bad it was getting.
Yeah.
That they were trying to get guys to commit. And then you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going, representing Canada. It's not like he was the leading points getter by any means. But between offense and defense and just wanting to get it done for Canada and finally qualifying for the Olympics, like there's something to be said where he's touching on the pro sports fan who wants to watch the NBA and also loves what a Canadian is doing there, putting up numbers and things we haven't seen really since Steve Nash. And then you also have, the casual fan who's like, this guy loves representing the Maple Leaf. Let's go. We love him.
And then on top of that, guys, like, he's got the clutch gene. Like, he is not afraid of the big stage, the big shot, and he knows how to deliver it.
Yeah, he does.
Not going to make them all, but
that's what he did
made
at the
a bunch of the World Cup.
Yeah, it was he was an absolute machine, and I expect he will be next summer as well in Paris. Like, that team will run through him, like, no question. And you're right. We were talking a little bit earlier this afternoon about recent comments made by John Herdman, who was the head coach of the men's national team, obviously leading up to the World Cup and beyond, and now he's taken over Toronto FC. And he mentioned in an interview with the CBC that, like, the team wasn't prepared, that when they went through the players' strike in the friendlies leading up to the World Cup, that when the players decided to basically protest Canadian soccer and the association and the payment and all that kind of stuff, that he saw it go from we to me, and that they weren't prepared over there at the World Cup. Like, pretty scathing commentary in retrospect for the guy who was running the program.
Well, exactly. And I think he lost control. I know a lot of people understand that he did get them as far as he could, which was qualifying for the World Cup. And a lot of people know that the players were starting to tune him out as well. He knew that it was the right move to also move on.
To get out.
And he did it, right? Because he reached out, it was his camp that reached out to Toronto FC. And, clearly it worked out, and we'll see how the year will go for him. But you're right, he's making these comments, and he's kind of been making them along the way. But this, to me, seemed the strongest to say, no, I saw the we go to me. And everyone was like looking out for themselves and what can be done for me. And I think there were certain things that happened along the way that rubbed him the wrong way as a head coach. He did go on to talk about the passing of his sister in May, where he didn't feel like he was as mentally focused, and maybe that's why he shouldn't have been there in Qatar. But yeah, from an organizational point of view, I mean, they showed up late to a press conference.
That was such a bad look.
Alphonso Davies is the star athlete, and he was made available. Like, I could probably count on one hand how many times he was made available. Didn't even speak to the traveling Canadian media who were non-rights holders. Like, no real help. And like, I know we keep hearing growing the game, but as someone who covers the game religiously, I can tell you right now, we are not a soccer nation. So there's still, the onus to grow the game. And yeah, so there's just so many things that went on there, but they were just not prepared whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, and it's like interesting that he's willing to say it now because he's out.
Right.
He's out, yeah.
I also think there's some revisionist history to an extent. Like, even if they were the most connected team in the world, they weren't getting through the group. Like, it was a miracle that they showed up against Belgium. They should have won that game.
Should have won.
Croatia completely dismantled them. I don't care if they showed up at the presser on time. I don't care if they were we versus me and played friendlies.
How about the bleep Croatia?
Well, that's
from the
another
coach
thing.
himself.
Funny how Herdman, he's not necessarily, pulling those comments back.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not disputing what he's saying behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I also think you got to be realistic. Like, no one thought they were going to do anything over there. Like, even if they were a team that was the most connected team of all time, they weren't doing anything at the World Cup.
There were people saying they could be a sleeper, though. There were people saying they could be a scary
the bookmakers
matchup.
were not.
After the Belgium,
bookmakers were not.
After the Belgium game, and
which Belgium clearly was brutal.
Sure.
They had played horribly.
I mean, if Alphonso Davies scored that penalty kick, who knows what that Morocco – I mean, they could have easily still lost that game, but who knows what the Morocco game would have meant if he scored first. Like, Canada scored first.
Right.
They were okay against Croatia then. It just goes to show how much Stefan Eustáquio means to the team. When he gets injured, doesn't come out in that second half, it's completely wheels off. But to your point, you can look at Herdman and go, did you need to leave Atiba Hutchinson as long as you did in the game? And did you need to, you couldn't figure out where to properly play Alphonso Davies, and he lost the team.
Right. There were tactical criticisms of
100%
his coaching as well. And I guess that's what now it was because it was me versus we. It's like, okay, I'm sure there's truth in that, but it probably also was you got outcoached.
Yeah.
You didn't have as much talent. You played better sides.
Yeah, but you know what, though? Like,
let's avoid that in 4 years.
There's no denying that the Federation, the Canadian Soccer Association, botched the lead up to the World Cup, scheduling Iran, a game they ended up having to cancel, having a player strike because they couldn't figure out how to satisfy the players. I mean, it was a debacle.
That's a separate conversation where you're not going to get.
Same conversation.
But it's not when you talk about the Canadian Soccer Association. It's not because no one's going to fall on the sword for the CSA. Nobody.
Right.
Everyone understands it's goofy. It's amateur hour. The finances aren't there. They never have been. They never seem to be on the same page. But I mean, the idea that if you had a better association, does that change what they're going to do at the World Cup?
That's his point. Herdman's saying we weren't prepared because our federation didn't allow us to prepare properly.
That sounded more to me like he that's a shot at the players as opposed to the association. That's how I read it.
He 100% took a shot at the players. You don't say we've gone from we to me and mean the federation. You mean the players.
That's what I'm.
And I will say this: the federation spent a ton of money on that team in the lead up. They had Chris Hadfield, an astronaut, on the pitch to sing the national anthem before that first game against Belgium. Like, why are you spending money to fly him out, get him credentials, have him on the pitch? Like, they did not. Canada Soccer, in many ways, has a spending problem. Like, they spent a ton of money. By the way, they've been spending a ton of money on the women as well, to the point where the women had to come out with a statement in this past summer in August, kind of retracting some things that they said, because they're like, listen, we want to make it clear Canada Soccer has met all of our needs and paying for this and paying for that. The Federation just doesn't have money. We have this habit, and it's very easy to fall into, to compare ourselves to the United States. We are nowhere near the United States Soccer Federation. We are nowhere near the corporate dollars. We are nowhere near the population. We don't make the money that they make. Therefore, we cannot spend the money that they spend. But there's still a lot of organizational issues. But I will say, after that strike against Panama, no expense was spared, but they also had to spend within their means. So to your point, like they got outplayed by the United States in the Nations League final, their first chance to win a trophy in 23 years. And the last thing people wanted to hear was John Herdman come out and attack the Federation. No, once again, you didn't come out with the tactics that could have won you that game. Yeah. When the debacle happened with the women at the She Believes Cup, where the women had every right to say enough is enough, the Federation then met all of their needs heading into the World Cup. They flew out to Australia. Only after they went to war.
Only after they went to war with the Federation.
100%. But with every NSO in this country, by the way, every single NSO, National Sporting Organization in this country, sadly is on the brink of like bankruptcy. And it's not like I'm trying to let anyone off the hook, but it's also like the sad truth for every NSO in this country. We don't get the government funding the way the United States just throws money at their sports. We have a different culture in Canada. And we could go on and on for this, right?
Okay. Yeah. There is a lot. There's too much to chew on right now. But we've got Trey coming up. We got our best bets brought to you by FanDuel coming up. But there's a lot to get into there on that front. And also the way I think a lot of Canadians react who aren't into sports, who freak if you do spend the money. Like that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, there's that.
You know, it's anyway,
taxpayer dollars. We don't want it going towards that. And they're, are they wrong?
Well,
maybe not.
Exactly. And if you're not into it and your kids are into arts or whatever, you're like pump money into that. And there's only so many dollars that can go around. All right, OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Danny DeVito, what a story. Danny DeVito.
Why do you keep calling him Danny?
Hey, by the way, I can't stop calling him Danny.
Because I thought you were joking. I thought that was an inside joke with maybe you and the boys. So you said Danny, so I let it go.
No, it's just a slip up.
Well,
I was like, Danny DeVito.
The New York papers have featured almost every member of his family.
Right.
And he's got a cousin named Danny.
At somewhere along the line, he's related to Danny.
33-year-old Danny DeVito was sidling up to the trough at the tailgate last night.
Okay. I want him related to Danny DeVito.
The Danny.
Yes, I want him related to the
He's
Danny.
an Eagles fan, the Danny DeVito.
Okay. Here is the co-host of the Chasing It podcast and the 33rd team contributor, one of our favorites, Trey Wingo. Is it cool if we call him Danny? Like, what does he have to do to be Tommy exclusively, Trey?
No, he's Tommy Cutlets, baby. Come on, let's go.
Oh.
That's what he is.
All right.
And by the way, you know for sure that agent, Sean Stellano, or whatever his name is, you know his nickname in his neighborhood when he was growing up had to be Spats.
Oh, yeah.
That's who he was. Hey, Shawnee Spats, what's up?
No question. And it's a cool story. Like this DeVito, he's fun. I guess he's got some talent. They're winning some ball games. Like, is there any reason for us to believe that he's got a future with the Giants, or when Daniel Jones returns and is healthy, he returns to a second or third string guy?
Well, I mean, that's a really layered question because we don't know what Daniel Jones is to begin with, right? I mean, the jury's still out on him. Look, this could end next week very easily. Remember how much fun we were having with Josh Dobbs a couple of weeks ago, and Astronaut, and oh my gosh, he walks into Minnesota and does all these great things. So I have no idea where it's going to go. I have no idea how long it's going to last. But, you get these every once in a while, and then, you get film and you get a little tape, and they got a chance to study you a little more specifically about what you can and maybe more importantly what you can't do. So let's just enjoy it. Like, who knows how long this is going to? No one knows. So let's just enjoy the ride and put up the pinch fingers and let's all have some clams and linguine.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? I'm with you, man. I mean, the Giants, they were a disaster early in the year. All of a sudden, they're 5-8. They're technically in the hunt. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but they're chasing the team they beat last night. And you look at the Packers, Trey. They held second-half leads in losses to the Falcons, the Raiders, the Broncos, the Steelers, and now the Giants. And they're 6-7. Like, how do you describe where the Packers are at? Is it still glass half full because they're the youngest team in the league? Or is it glass half empty because they've blown all these leads?
Well, I think it's still the glass half full long term. It might be the glass half empty short term. Jordan Love has progressed immensely this year. His numbers are eerily similar to Aaron Rodgers in his first year as a starter. This is the first loss, by the way, for the Packers in the month of December since 2018. Wow. Since 2019, when Matt LaFleur took over as head coach, the Packers were the only unbeaten team in the month of December in the NFL. They had been 16-0. So it was not only did they end their 3-game losing streak, but they lost in December for the first time since 2018. So This is a franchise that I believe may be able to pull off the rarest triple header of all time, which is go from one franchise quarterback to another franchise quarterback to a third franchise quarterback in the way Jordan Love has played. Normally you get to do that twice, but no one's ever really done it 3 times. So the best way to answer that question is long-term, I think the glass is half full. Short-term, it may be half empty because of the things you talked about, but I think that going forward, Packer fans should be a little excited about what they have.
So, Trey, we saw, speaking of franchise quarterbacks, we saw Patrick Mahomes sort of take a step back from his scathing commentary about the Kadarius Toney offside call that robbed us of a wonderful play by the Kansas City Chiefs that would have had them take the lead against the Bills the other night. What did you make of Mahomes sort of, giving a bit of a public apology for the way he behaved himself, the way he complained not only to the officiating crew, but to Josh Allen, of all people, about getting screwed by this terrible call? And what do we make of it from here?
First of all, it was the right thing to do. And, Patrick Mahomes is one of the classiest guys in the league. He will always end up doing the right thing. And it was necessary. I mean, Andy Reid needs to apologize, too. He said it was embarrassing for the NFL. No, the embarrassing thing is the way the Chiefs have played. Let's just be honest about it, all right? That was a flashpoint for them to vent all their frustrations on the year. Patrick Mahomes is on pace to still have the highest completion percentage of his career in a year in which his receivers lead the league in drops. So, I mean, it has been a frustrating season for the Kansas City Chiefs. And despite all their issues, it's all still in front of them. I mean, they only play one team with a winning record the rest of the way, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals with Jake Browning, who's played really well. But I would like the Chiefs' chances if they just stop shooting themselves in the foot. Like, I've said this a million times, it's not taking away any credit from anybody else, but the Chiefs just continue to beat themselves. They make all these kind of ridiculous mistakes in critical situations. When they get in the red zone a couple of weeks ago against the Packers, and in each of those red zone situations, they give up a sack or they give up a penalty, and touchdowns turn into field goals. And, they had the Rashee Rice fumble, who's clearly the only receiver that Patrick Mahomes trusts besides Travis Kelce. Like, I'll go look at all 22 tape, and you'll see Sky Moore. Hey, he's pretty open. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's pretty open. And Patrick goes, nope, where's Travis? I think he might be open. Let's try and go there. So what we saw at the end of that game was just a frustration point from the Chiefs. It's been a really frustrating season. They're 3 plays away from being 11-2, or instead of 8-5.
Yeah,
and it's just it's unbelievable with that. But in so many games in the NFL, it's the littlest things that make the biggest difference. And for 5 years, everything's been clicking for Kansas City. And this is a year where everything isn't, and their frustration boiled over after that call, which, by the way, was the correct call. I don't want to hear anybody say it. That was the correct call. He's offsides. Now, you can say, okay, well, maybe the ref should have warned him and all that kind of stuff, but it's still up to the player to not line up offsides, okay? And it's one thing to point to the official, but you have to get confirmation from the official. And, there's that video of Kadarius Toney pointing to the official, but did he get a response back one way or the other? He didn't look. He just pointed and then went on his way. And Kadarius Toney's been a problem all season long from week 1 for the Chiefs. They win that game against the Lions. If they don't have a pick six that bounces off his hands into the hands of a Lions defender, that was the difference in a 1-point game.
With Trey Wingo, and obviously Kansas City, based on the last 5 or 6 years, they would probably look at this very disappointed with the way they're playing. And then you look at Miami, who on the flip side, they're leading the AFC East. Yeah. Yet another glass half full, glass half empty. They blow a 14-point lead to Tennessee late last night, and all 9 of the Dolphins' wins this season have come against teams below 500. So I'll ask you, Trey, who are the Miami Dolphins?
Well, we're about to find out, because I think they play you look at their schedule, I think, I don't have this off the top of my head, I know they play Dallas.
They play Dallas, Baltimore, Buffalo, Jets.
And Baltimore, okay? Yeah. And the Jets are going to be, look, the Jets aren't going to win a lot of games, but they'll stay in every game. I mean, they'll be in those games going forward. So we're going to find out exactly who Miami is over the final 4 games or 5 games of the season here, or 4 games rather. And, like I said, the biggest winner last night in that Miami loss to Tennessee was Kansas City, because they own the tiebreaker over if Kansas City can just stop killing themselves, they actually have a really good chance of getting the 1 seed, let alone the 3 seed, which is what they're in right now. So Miami has to prove Miami has to do what Dallas has done, right? Dallas was like, okay, you're beating up on the Panthers and you're beating up on the Commanders and you destroyed the Giants twice. Well, what are you going to do when you take on a real team? Well, Seattle came in on that Thursday night a couple of weeks ago. They had a winning record, and it was a shoot-up, and the Cowboys won that game. Then they absolutely punched the Eagles in the mouth. They win their 6th straight home game against Philadelphia, their 15th straight at home. Dallas has said, we can do this. Now, their schedule is also very tough. They take on Buffalo. They take on Miami. And they have the Commanders, and they also have to take on Detroit. So their schedule is not friendly for the Dallas Cowboys. But they've stepped up in 2 games now. Miami has yet to step up in any game against a quality opponent.
He is Trey Wingo, co-host of the Chasing It podcast, big part of the 33rd team. Always appreciate you finding time for us. Thank you for doing this.
You got it, guys. Take care.
There he is, Trey Wingo. As we turn the page on Week 14, Hayes and Bro is on fire. We're chasing down Timo and Wilson. We're feeling very good. Got a lot of games this week, too, right? A Thursday nighter, 3 on Saturday.
Yeah.
Games on Sunday. I think there might be a Monday nighter coming up where they have 3 games on Monday night again.
Wow.
I feel like I thought I heard that today.
See that?
Because
I can't stay up late anymore.
It's tough, huh?
Oh, when the Eagles even kicked off at 8, I'm like, I'm going to bed. I'll watch the first and second quarter.
You'll figure it out.
And then it was a disaster anyways. Wake up in the morning to see the score.
Yeah.
Then quickly shut the phone off after I
Another
saw the score.
Another free agent signing in baseball. Jung-Hoo Lee going to the Giants.
You're kidding. Like he was connected to the Jays a little bit anyway. As an option.
We're not doing that.
No, I know that. Well, now they're saying there's reports that this Yamamoto is going to meet with the Jays. Right? Who's a stud pitcher that's coming over, but they have a rotation already.
That's the thing. I'm not sure they need Yamamoto.
No, and it sounds like he's going to make a fortune.
Oh, yeah.
I'll bet you he goes to the Dodgers.
You think?
Like, I'll bet you, I wouldn't be shocked if Ohtani was like, pay me this, defer, and give it to him. Mm-hmm. Give the, not $68 million to him, but he might make $30 million a year.
Yeah. Okay, so just on the whole topic of refreshing, which we just said about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and representing Canada, how refreshing is it? And it's not like Ohtani's the first and probably won't be the last to do this, which is defer. There's been other examples of players who have done this. And it's not like he's making this massive sacrifice where he's so poor, where he's deferring to the point where he can't put food on his table. I think I saw a report as well where even though he's be making like $2 million, in non-baseball things, he's like up to $50 million a year.
He's still making more than almost anybody.
Anyway, but because it's also refreshing that he'll do that for the club, defer to say, I want to be surrounded by players to win.
I think I think there is something to that, and it probably puts pressure on the Dodgers to follow through on it.
Yeah.
Now, they're already paying Mookie Betts a fortune, Freddie Freeman a bunch of money. They're a stacked lineup anyway. But let's say it opens the door for one more great player.
Right.
Then that's charitable in a way in terms of wins and losses. Like Ohtani is still going to make his money.
He's going to be a gajillionaire.
He's still like, this is going to benefit Shohei Ohtani in the end. I guarantee it. He's not Robin Hood. He's not playing for free. But
no, but he is.
There can be a benefit for the team as well, which will be very unique.
Yeah, and there is a business case that it's a pretty big sacrifice. Like that, the fact that you don't have that money.
There's no interest, right?
Yeah. You're not getting that money with interest. You're
risking bankruptcy, which will never happen.
That's not happening. I think Dodgers are going to be okay.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a risk. I mean, the point is, like, he's not the first guy to, like, Tom Brady was never the highest paid player in the NFL. So
he's moving money around all the time.
He was always looking to say, hey, let's give it to somebody else. You talked about Patrice Bergeron earlier in the show and how they sort of set that internal salary cap with the Bruins that served them very well. There's been a million examples of it.
It's tough, man, because, like, especially, if you bring it down to hockey where there actually is that hard cap. Like, on one hand, I don't blame a player for saying I'm the best and you have to pay me like that. But on the other hand, I really like a player who's like, okay, I know I could probably take $2 or $3 million more, but I'm not, because winning that Stanley Cup and making sure you have enough to put players around me, like, that matters too.
It's a part of the equation. It sucks for the players, but they know that that's the fact going into it. Like, there's a finite number. Putting together a Stanley Cup competitive team is a math equation. That's what it is in the salary cap era. And it's going to be for the rest of time. And, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
If you want to take it all, go for it. But I think everyone will appreciate you more if you take a little bit less.
Yeah, because there's a good chance you'll never win.
Right.
If you take it all.
Yeah, exactly. If you take like 20%, which no one's done, you're probably never going to win.
Well, McDavid gave $1 million back, they say.
Yeah.
And whatever. I mean,
Jeff Jackson made sure the world knew it. Now, Jeff,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens now that he's running the show in
Connor
Edmonton.
McDavid, 3 more hearts.
Triple header Monday, December 25th, Christmas Day. So it's Christmas falls on a Monday. There are three games that day, but it's staggered 1, 4:30, 8:15. The NBA's got to love that.
Just saying.
The
The
NBA's
NBA's
got to love
wait,
that.
isn't that like Christmas Day is
Yeah.
the NBA's day?
Not anymore. It's not.
Not
The NBA is going to get crushed by the NFL because it's Kansas City, Philly, the Nightcaps, Baltimore, San Francisco. That's going to do like $40 million.
Seriously.
Oh
Like
my
that's a
God.
massive game.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
I feel sorry for all our fellow journalists who have to work that day.
Exactly.
Guess who don't have to?
I'll be
This
gambling.
girl.
I'll be gambling.
That's work.
I'll be working. Exactly. Speaking of which, today's best bet's powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm on goal in the first 10 minutes tonight, and Maple Leafs plus 1.5. That's an alternate spread tonight. Again, I think it's a close game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Leafs won tonight. Goal in the first 10. Leafs keep it within 1.5 goals tonight. That's your parlay. Best bets powered by FanDuel. FanDuel's goal in the first 10 minutes is the most electric bet in hockey and can be inducted into any same-game parlay on any game. Can be inducted into any SGP. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 plus. Physically located in Ontario. All right. Induct that into your same-game parlays tonight.
I got lost halfway through that, but
Very convoluted.
you brought it back.
It's all good. All right, we've got some injury updates. Some guys out of the lineup tonight. Illness running through the Leafs. We'll tell you about that. We'll get to it next.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Just keep it safe with me. Anything you say will always stay.
All right, the Leafs are in New York playing the Rangers tonight. There's been, I guess, an illness like coursing through the room. Matthew Nyes won't play tonight. Matthew Nyes is out.
What is it? Cold? Flu-like symptoms. Let me guess. Flu-like symptoms.
Yeah, probably something like that, I would guess.
If it's flu-like symptoms, do you not just have the flu?
Yeah, I've
Do you
never
ever wonder
understood that.
why they don't say he has the flu?
Yeah, what is the difference between the flu and flu-like symptoms?
I don't know.
Good
You have
question.
the flu or you have a really bad cold? Figure it out.
Yeah, either way, you're
You're not playing.
not playing. So thanks for coming out. I guess Noah Gregor's going to move up the lineup. It's interesting. Big opportunity for him.
Yeah.
With Willie and Austin Matthews tonight. So we'll see. All right, Andy, great seeing you as
Great
always.
being here,
Thank
yeah.
you for doing this. The great Andy Petrillo, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star, the great Dave Feschuk.
Oh, come on.
The great Dave Feschuk. Thank you for doing this as well. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your games tonight. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.